It was just another quiet Saturday afternoon. I took my daughter Emma to the grocery store like we always did. She skipped ahead of me, humming, holding her little stuffed bear. Nothing felt unusual until I heard her voice behind the cereal aisle. "Mommy." I turned, expecting to see her running toward me, but instead she was hugging a woman I had never seen before, a tall woman with long auburn hair and trembling hands. Emma clung to her like she'd known her forever. The woman froze. Her eyes locked with mine, full of shock. Emma giggled and said, "I found you again, Mommy." I stood there, paralyzed. My heart dropped. "Emma," I whispered, stepping forward. "Who is she?" She looked at me innocently. "That's my mommy," she said, pointing. The woman's face went pale. She stammered something, then rushed away without a word. Emma just smiled, as if nothing strange had happened. But everything was strange. Everything was wrong. My daughter, the little girl I'd raised and loved for 5 years, had just called another woman Mom. And in that moment, I knew something about our family was a lie. I chased after her. My hands were shaking as I pushed the cart aside and ran through the aisles. Emma tried to follow, calling out, "Wait, don't let her go." But the woman had already disappeared by the time I made it to the parking lot. I stood there, confused and breathless. The cold February air burned my lungs. Emma tugged at my sleeve and said calmly, "She's my first mommy. I remember her now." Her first mommy, what was she talking about? I crouched down to face her. "Sweetheart, that lady, do you know her name?" She shook her head. "No, but I know her hug. It felt warm." I could barely hold it together. That night, after I tucked her into bed, I sat in the living room with the adoption papers spread out in front of me. My husband, Adam, and I had adopted Emma when she was just over a year old. Her birth mother had supposedly given her up voluntarily. We'd never met her. That was part of the closed adoption agreement. But now I had seen the woman. Emma had recognized her. I waited for Adam to come home and asked him straight out, "Do you know who that woman was?" He froze at the door, still holding his keys. "What woman?" I told him everything, about the encounter, about Emma's reaction. Adam looked stunned for a second, then dismissed it quickly. "It was probably just someone who looked familiar to her. Kids get confused." "No," I said firmly. "Emma said she remembers her hug. That's not confusion, that's memory." Adam's face darkened. "Drop it, Rachel. It was a closed adoption. You're her mother now. That woman has no place in our lives." The way he said it, so sharp, so final, sent a chill down my spine. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying that moment in the store, Emma's arms around that woman, the way she smiled like she'd found something lost. The next morning, I went digging. I pulled out the manila folder with our adoption documents again. But this time, I noticed something I hadn't before. Under birth mother information, the name was redacted, just a blank space and a case number. Strange. That wasn't how I remembered it. I could have sworn there used to be a name there. I flipped through the pages looking for more. That's when I saw it, a scribbled note on the last page in Adam's handwriting. "Keep this version, delete the original." My blood ran cold. What original? What was he trying to erase? At that moment, I knew this wasn't just about a woman in a store. It was about a lie buried deep beneath our family, one that Adam was trying very hard to keep hidden. I waited until Adam left for work the next morning. The second I heard the garage door close, I grabbed his laptop. My hands were trembling, but my mind was sharp. I needed answers. I tried his usual password, Emma 2017. It worked. I opened the documents folder and searched for anything that said adoption or Emma. There was a folder named Archived. Inside, dozens of files, but one caught my eye. Original Adoption Full, PDF. I opened it, and my heart cracked wide open. The birth mother's name was there, bold and clear, Lena Marie Caldwell. Not redacted, not erased, fully visible. There was also a scan page, handwritten, tear-stained, where Lena had written, "I do not consent to permanent separation. I am requesting temporary guardianship until recovery." Temporary guardianship. I scrolled down. The next page was an official court letter denying her appeal, citing lack of evidence and failure to appear in hearing. I kept scrolling, emails between Adam and a man named Gerald Harper. The tone was terse, secretive. "Gerald, I've taken care of the hospital's mistake. The mother won't be notified again." Adam, "Good, she's unstable. I'm doing what's best for the child." Unstable. I covered my mouth in shock. Why had Adam never told me this? He made it sound like Lena had abandoned Emma, that she didn't want her. But that wasn't true at all. She wanted her daughter. She just needed help. And instead of helping her, they shut her out and buried her existence. I heard a noise behind me. Emma had woken up early. She rubbed her eyes and climbed onto the couch beside me. "What are you reading, Mommy?" I closed the laptop slowly. "Just some papers, honey." She looked at me, her little face thoughtful. "Was that lady yesterday my real mom?" I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. My voice was too shaky. She whispered, "It felt like it." I hugged her tightly, not knowing how much truth she could handle at 5 years old. But I knew one thing: she deserved more than a life built on someone else's silence. When Adam came home that evening, I confronted him. I saw the real documents. He didn't even pretend to be surprised. He just sat down and said, "It's better this way, Rachel, you know it is." "No," I said. "Better for who?" He stayed silent. "I want to meet her," I said, trembling. "I want to talk to Lena." Adam stood up. "If you bring her into this house, I swear I will walk." I looked at him, really looked at him, and whispered, "Maybe that wouldn't be such a loss." His face changed, and for the first time, I wasn't the one afraid of losing everything. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma's little arms wrapped around that woman. I heard her voice, "I found you again, Mommy." It echoed through my chest like a siren. While Adam snored beside me, I quietly slipped out of bed. Something inside told me to look deeper. Not just documents, not just papers. I went to the garage. Adam had an old tool cabinet he kept locked. I'd never questioned it until now. I found the spare key taped behind a painting in his office, typical of him to hide things in plain sight. Inside the cabinet, between a box of car manuals and a half-used paint kit, I found a small black USB flash drive, unlabeled. Something about it felt heavy, like it carried more than data. I plugged it into my laptop, hands clammy with anticipation. There was only one file. Lena voice M4A. I clicked play. Static, then breathing, then a woman's voice breaking, sobbing. "Please, Adam, I'm not well, but I'm not a danger. I just need time. Let me get better. Let me hold her again. Please don't take her away forever." I froze. That voice, it was her, Lena. She sounded terrified, desperate, not unfit, just human. Then came Adam's voice. "You had your chance, Lena. You ruined it. You don't get to come back now. You're out for good." She cried harder. "You said you'd help me. You promised we'd raise her together." Click. The recording ended. I just sat there, stunned. Adam and Lena were together. This wasn't just a closed adoption. This was a betrayal, a cover-up, and I'd been part of it unknowingly from the start. Suddenly, a memory hit me. Years ago, right before we adopted Emma, Adam had taken a sudden trip to Oregon. He said it was for work. But now I remembered. He came back shaken, quiet for days. Was that the day he took Emma? Did he lie to Lena, tell her he'd help her get better, then file papers behind her back? The next morning, I printed the audio transcript, put it in an envelope, and dropped it in my purse. Then I drove Emma to daycare, but instead of heading home, I drove to the city, to the address on the court documents I'd secretly copied the night before. Apartment 3B, brick building, rusted mailbox. I knocked. And there she was, Lena. She looked thinner, tired, but her eyes, those same brown eyes as Emma's, lit up when she saw me. "You're her?" I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I think we need to talk," I whispered, holding out the envelope. "You deserve to hear this." Her hands trembled as she took it. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then she whispered, "I never stopped looking for her, not one day." And just like that, I knew my life was about to change forever. Lena sat on the edge of her worn-out couch, gripping the envelope like it was a live wire. Her apartment was small but neat. Faded photos lined the wall, most of them of her alone. But one caught my eye, a baby in a hospital blanket, tiny fists clenched, eyes shut tight. "Emma, do you want to listen to it now?" I asked gently. She nodded, lips trembling. I handed her my phone with the audio file queued up. She listened in silence. Her face barely moved, except for the twitch in her jaw when Adam's voice echoed through the speaker. When it ended, she didn't cry. She just stared ahead. "He said he would help me," she whispered. "We were stupid kids. We weren't even married, but he promised. He said we could raise her together, that he'd take care of the paperwork until I got better." I sat across from her, heart pounding. "What happened?" "I had postpartum psychosis," she said quietly. "I heard voices. I was hospitalized for 2 months, but I got treatment. I recovered, and when I came back, they told me my baby was gone." I covered my mouth in shock. She looked at me, her eyes glassy. "He'd already filed the papers, said I abandoned her, said I was a danger." The next words came out like broken glass. "He took her from me, and no one believed me when I fought back." I felt sick. My husband had done this. "I found out later," she continued, "that Adam's uncle worked in the state child services department back then. Gerald Harper." I froze. Gerald, the name from the emails. "He pulled strings," Lena said. "Erased my appeals, changed the file records, made it look like I never wanted her." I sat back, reeling. So Adam hadn't just lied, he'd orchestrated the whole thing. He'd stolen Emma, used the system, used me, and I'd been too in love, too trusting to see it. I pulled out my phone again and opened the court record database. Now that I had Lena's full name and case number, I could access the original file. I found something new. A suppressed hearing file, flagged as sealed. I clicked through a maze of documents until I reached the petition Lena had filed for temporary custody, denied due to failure to appear in court. Did you miss the hearing? I asked. She shook her head. No, I showed up. They said it was postponed, that my name wasn't on the docket anymore. My heart dropped. They lied to keep you away, she nodded. And Adam, he just disappeared, changed his number. I never saw either of them again. Until yesterday, until fate threw her into our path again. I stood up slowly. Lena, I want to help you. She looked up at me like she didn't dare hope. I don't know how this ends, I said, but I swear to you, Emma won't grow up believing her real mother abandoned her. And in that moment, a silent alliance was born between the woman who lost everything and the woman who had been lied to just the same. The deeper I dug, the darker it got. After meeting Lena, I couldn't look at Adam the same way. I watched him across the dinner table that night, calmly cutting his steak like nothing in the world was wrong. Emma sat between us, coloring her placemat with crayons. My chest felt tight, like I was living with a stranger. When Emma went to bed, I followed Adam into his office. We need to talk, I said. He didn't look up. About what? Lena, and how you took Emma from her. He slowly set his pen down. I warned you, he said, voice low. This isn't a road you want to go down, Rachel. I stepped closer. Did you pay someone at the hospital, or was it all Gerald's doing? He stared at me for a long time. Then he leaned back in his chair, folded his arms, and said something that made my blood run cold. She didn't deserve her. What? She couldn't even hold her own child without shaking. She left the baby screaming in the hospital crib while she cried in a corner. The nurses said she was a mess. I had a choice to make. You stole her, Adam. No, he snapped. I saved her. I gave that girl a better life, one with you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She's not a thing you get to choose for, I yelled. You forged records, erased her mother, and lied to me for 5 years. His face twisted. You never would have agreed if I told you the truth. You're damn right I wouldn't. I stormed out of the office and into the garage. I opened his old lockbox, the one he kept hidden under the workbench. Inside was an envelope, thick, filled with old receipts and records. I rifled through it and found what I feared, a check stub, $25,000, made out to Northwest Mercy Hospital, private wing transfer, dated 1 week before we adopted Emma. I felt like vomiting. He didn't just file shady papers. He paid someone. He bought access. He bought our daughter. When I confronted him with it, he didn't even flinch. Everyone does it, he muttered. Do you think closed adoptions are all rainbows and hand-holding? I don't care what everyone else does, I said, my voice cracking. I care what you did to her, to me, to Emma. He stared at me, calm as ever. She's happy, isn't she? I wanted to scream. I wanted to hit him, but I didn't. I just looked at him and said the words that had been building inside me since that day in the grocery store. She's going to know who her mother is, whether you like it or not. And then I walked upstairs to Emma's room. I sat on her bed, brushed her hair from her forehead, and whispered, Sweetheart, there's someone I want you to meet. Because the truth was no longer something I could avoid. It was something I owed her. I met Lena again the following week. This time, I brought something with me. While Adam was away on a work trip, if I could even trust that anymore, I'd searched through every box in the attic, looking for anything he might have hidden. I wasn't sure what I expected to find, but tucked inside an old leather-bound journal, beneath layers of faded receipts and insurance forms, was a letter. It was written in neat, shaky cursive. The paper was yellowed, tear-stained, dated 5 years ago. To the family who will raise my daughter, it began. I read it once, alone in the attic, then again. And then I wept. Now, sitting in Lena's small living room, I gently handed it to her. She hesitated, as if scared to touch it. When she opened it and saw her own handwriting, she gasped. I wrote this the day they took her, she whispered. I sat quietly as she read it aloud, voice trembling. To the woman who will be her mother, please tell her she was wanted. Please tell her I sang to her every night for 9 months. Please tell her I held her for exactly 47 minutes before they said I couldn't anymore. I didn't abandon her. I just wasn't well, but I never stopped loving her. Not for 1 second. I hope she has your smile. I hope she feels safe. And one day, if she ever wonders about me, tell her I dreamed of her every night. Tell her I loved her more than I knew how to survive. By the end, Lena was sobbing. So was I. I wrote that hoping someone would read it and maybe, just maybe, love her enough to let her know me one day, she choked out. I wish I had seen this sooner, I said. I would have done everything differently. She looked up red-eyed. You're here now, that's enough. I couldn't explain the ache in my chest. This wasn't jealousy. It was grief for all the years stolen, all the memories they never got to share. I want her to read it, I said. When the time is right, Lena nodded. Only when she's ready. There was a long silence. Then she added softly, do you think she'd want to see me again? I answered without hesitation. Yes, because no matter what Adam had tried to erase, the bond between them had never died. It had only been buried, under lies, under fear, under the false comfort of control. Now it was resurfacing, raw and real, and I knew the next step wasn't mine to take, it was Emma's, but I would walk beside her when she took it. At first, I thought it was just a phase. Emma started drawing differently. Gone were the rainbows and smiling stick figures. Now her papers were filled with dark scribbles, big red excess over faces and trees without leaves. Her teacher called me in one afternoon and gently said, "She's quieter than usual, and she's been hiding her drawings under the table." When I asked Emma about them, she just said, "They're dreams." That night, I sat beside her as she colored. "Sweetheart, can you tell me what your dream was?" She didn't look up. There was a lady in a blue dress. She was crying in a white room. She called my name. My heart skipped. "Do you know who she was?" Emma hesitated. "She smelled like flowers. I think she was sad I left her." I blinked away tears. "Do you remember anything else?" She finally looked up. I wasn't scared. Her hug felt like the sky. That's when I knew she was remembering Lena, not through stories, not because of anything I had told her, but through something deeper, something only a child could carry without understanding, a memory of love lost too soon. In the following days, Emma became more withdrawn. She didn't want to eat her favorite cereal. She stopped asking Adam to read her bedtime stories. One morning, she looked at me and asked, "Why doesn't Daddy smile when I talk about the lady?" I froze. "What do you mean?" She frowned. I told him about her, the one from the store. He said she's just a stranger. "But she's not, Mommy, she's mine." I held her tightly. "You're not wrong, baby. She is someone very special." She leaned into me. "Can I see her again?" That question cracked something open inside me. I had been waiting for her to ask, and when she did, I realized Emma wasn't just remembering Lena. She was missing her, longing for something she didn't have a name for. The next weekend, I told Adam I was taking Emma to the park. Instead, I drove her to the same small apartment with the rusted mailbox. Lena was waiting on the front step. When Emma saw her, she froze. For a second, they just looked at each other. Then Emma whispered, "I remember your eyes." Lena knelt down, her hands shaking. "And I remember yours." Emma walked forward and placed her tiny hands on Lena's cheeks. No fear, no confusion, just instinct. She hugged her, not like a stranger, like someone coming home. I stood back, unable to stop the tears. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel like I was losing something. I felt like I was giving her something she had always deserved. He knew. I didn't tell him where we had gone, but Adam knew. He came home early from his trip unannounced. I was setting the table for dinner when I heard his footsteps, heavy, measured. He didn't say a word, just walked into the kitchen and dropped his phone on the counter. The screen was lit up with a photo, Emma, sitting on Lena's front steps. "Froze, how long have you been lying to me?" he asked, his voice cold. I stayed quiet. He slammed his fist against the counter, hard enough to rattle the glass. "I told you if you bring her back into our lives, I walk." My voice shook. "She never should have been out of our lives." He stepped closer. "You think she's stable now? You think that woman deserves another chance after what she did?" "She didn't do anything, Adam. You did." He stared at me like I was the enemy. "I gave that child a better life." "You gave her this mess." I didn't flinch. "Emma is finally sleeping through the night again. She's smiling, drawing suns instead of shadows. That's not a mess, Adam. That's healing." His eyes darkened. "You're throwing away everything we built." "No," I whispered. "I'm saving what's left of it." He walked toward the door, grabbing his coat. Then he paused, turned back, and said the words I knew were coming. "If you don't cut this off now, cut her off, I'll file for full custody." The air left my lungs. "You take her from me, if I have to. You think a judge would side with you?" I asked, my voice hoarse. He shrugged. "I'm still her legal father, and you're the one dragging a mentally unstable birth mother into her life. It wasn't just a threat, it was war. But I wasn't the woman I had been when this started. I wasn't confused. I wasn't scared. I was angry, and I was done. If you try to take her from me," I said, stepping forward, "I will go public, with the recordings, the documents. Everything. You won't just lose custody, you'll lose everything." His jaw tightened. "She's 5, I continued, voice trembling. "She deserves truth, not chains, and if you want to destroy her life to protect your lie, go ahead. But I promise you, you will lose her forever." We stared at each other for a long time, and then he walked out, just like that. No bag, no goodbye, just silence. I stood there in the hallway, heart pounding, unsure if I'd just lost my husband or finally been freed from him. That night, I tucked Emma into bed and kissed her forehead. "Mama," she whispered, "will I see the flower lady again?" I smiled through the sting in my eyes. "Yes, baby, you will, because love shouldn't come with threats, it should come with choice." It was a Sunday afternoon in late spring when it happened. The air was warm, the kind that smells like fresh-cut grass and new beginnings. I told Emma we were going to visit a friend. She dressed herself, picked out a yellow sundress, and asked me to braid her hair like in the dream. We drove in silence most of the way, but as we turned onto Lena's street, Emma whispered, "Will she remember me?" I smiled. "She never forgot you." Lena was already outside, standing by the old oak tree in front of her building. She wore a simple blue dress, the same one Emma had drawn in her sleep. Her hands were clasped tightly in front of her, eyes scanning the street. When she saw our car, she froze. I opened the door and Emma stepped out, clutching her stuffed bear. For a second, she just looked. No words, no rush. Then Lena dropped to her knees. Emma ran, the kind of run only a child can do, pure, open, without fear. She threw her arms around Lena's neck and squeezed like she was afraid she'd disappear again. Lena cried, not soft tears but body-shaking sobs, the kind that had waited 5 long years to be released. Emma held her tighter. "I missed you," she said, as if those words had always been there, waiting for this moment. "I missed you too," Lena choked out. "Every day, every single day." I stood a few feet away, watching them, hands trembling, throat aching. And yet, for the first time in months, I wasn't crying from pain. I was crying from relief. After what felt like forever, Lena looked at me, eyes brimming. "Thank you," she whispered. "I never thought I'd get this." "You earned it," I said. "You never stopped loving her." We spent the afternoon in the park down the street. Emma showed Lena how to do cartwheels. Lena brought out a little photo album she'd kept for years, pictures of Emma as a baby, hospital bracelets, a lock of hair taped to a page. Emma stared at them in awe. "That's me. That's you," Lena smiled, touching her cheek. "Before the world knew how bright you were. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't clean, but it was real, and real was more than enough." As the sun began to set, Emma fell asleep in my lap. Lena sat beside me on the bench, quiet. "Do you think she'll hate me when she's older?" she asked. "No," I said softly. "She'll know you fought, she'll know the truth, and she'll love you for it." She nodded, biting her lip. "What about him?" "He's gone," I said, "for now. And if he comes back," I looked down at the sleeping girl in my arms, our daughter, in every way that mattered, "then he'll find 3 women stronger than he ever imagined. People say the truth sets you free. I used to think that meant peace, calm, clean slates, but now I know it's not peace at first. It's pain, it's rupture. It's ripping open everything you thought was safe and choosing to walk through the wreckage anyway." Emma still asks questions, sometimes about the past, sometimes about the dreams. But now she has 2 women who love her fiercely and without lies. Lena visits every week. Sometimes they garden together. Sometimes they just sit under the tree out back and hum the lullaby she once sang through hospital walls. As for Adam, he hasn't come back. Maybe one day he will, maybe not. But if he does, he'll face a version of me he never expected. A mother who no longer needs his permission to protect what matters. We built something new from the broken, not a perfect family, but a true one. And in that truth there is love. Messy, healing, undeniable love. And that is more than enough.